Sorry guys, we're back on. Ashwall's here with us now, so we are ready to go. Just making sure players are happy with their colour choices before we start. Alright, so without further ado, we bring you the Hoover versus Ashwall in what's probably going to be a best of 3, as long as the Hoover can wrap it up quickly, or Ashwall can wrap it up quickly. But Ashwall doesn't have a lot of time, but big thanks to him for filling in today. So spawning on the top side of the map as the purple Greek player, we have the Hoover, and his opponent today, spawning as the green Persian player, we have Ashwall. Now guys, give it up to both of our combatants. Now both of these players played a few Showmatches now. The Hoover been playing for a little while in Project Celeste, as well as being an original game player. Ashwall, I think he's pretty new in the game overall, but he's a pretty strong player, and he's played a few Showmatches already as well, so this should be a cracker of a match. And the only disappointment I've got is that we've had to open on Arabia, which is a huge map, so there is a lot of travel distance between all the resources. Both these players really encourage to sort of travel up this high shelf here, put their market line somewhere up here, while also having their second or third town centre midway-ish, and then possibly look at expanding onto the low ground. Like, it's generally preferable to not go onto the low ground terribly quickly. Ashwall's going for an early barrack, so it's a strategy that is seen on Arabia, considering the travel distance. The rush distance isn't that immense, really. I mean, you are sort of side by side in this. Like, if it was cross spawns, forget about it. It would take forever to get to your opponent. And the Hoover playing much more standard, much more defensive, macro-oriented style here. So he's gone double storehouse. He's even just stuck on the high ground. Ashwall going on the low ground here. I do like this. Does have the opportunity to get hunting dogs here. Just needs to be careful to not get pushed off here and actually do something with the barracks. But I mean, he's getting some Spara already and streaming them across the field, so he is looking to get as much value out of this as possible, I think. Oh no, he's just sort of going to guard his hunt at first, but I think he's coming down and going to spot this with his scout. Sorry about that. I'm a little bit out of practice with the casting. Anyway, the Hoover, huge number of villagers on his stone now. Only 2 on the food, because he's not actually needing to produce any workers at the moment. So really nice reshuffling of his eco there as he needs. Now looking at Ashwall, he's gathering the stone. Hasn't started his age up yet, obviously, because he started with that Spara commitment. So that's cost him a little bit of food, but right now I think he's cut the Spara, going to work up towards 200 food and take that age up, and looking to push into his opponent now, securing some of the sheep that he's found, some of the goats, sorry, that he's found around the map, bringing all of them home, except this pair here. But he's going to find another pair over here, I think. Anyway, he's bringing these Spara forward. The Hoover's going to have to respond to this pretty quickly. He's got a lot of villagers there on the wood, so he wants to throw up both this town centre and also have a nice number of villagers here to continue gathering, so he can throw up either a barracks or an archery range or both, you know, in order to have to defend against the Spara push here. But Eshwar, unlucky in the sense that Behover's not trying to blindly distant expand there with the second town centre. Over here it's quite safely nestled inside Behover's base. It's already half done. So Eshwar gonna have to, I think, pull back until he's got more units, or just try and go for some of these more outlying villages here and then back off. I mean, the Sparrow are amazing considering their Pierce armor at 40%, so there's a pretty hefty reduction of the town centre fire because it normally wreaks havoc on any aggressive units in the early game, like the Spearmen or your Age 2 infantry or bowmen. So Eshwar right now getting Hansel, that's nice to see. He's going to work that in, as well as getting the a low ground town centre here. Interesting stuff, man. Building towards his opponent though, so he really wants to lock Eshwar onto the high ground, which is a risky strat, but if it works for him, then yeah, it really forces Verhoover onto using the market line, getting all of his berries up here and then getting onto the farms a lot quicker, whereas you've got access to a lot more gold mines, all these huntables on the low ground, so it is a really smart strat if you can pull it off. And Eshwar is going to attempt that right now against Verhoover, who is an amazing defensive player. He's also an amazing aggressive player, but I think his defensive play, in particular on his Greek, is probably what he's known for. So Eshwar having a bit of a poke and prod at his opponent, not going to lose any Sparrow here, not going to really get anything other than a slight, cut to gather time there on some wood gatherers. So he's going to pull back for now, look at adding some more production. He's going to get some Asabari out, which would be nice for him. Verhoover actually going straight towards an academy. This is interesting. Let's see some really macro-oriented stuff here from Verhoover. He's getting a plow. Already wants to transition to the farms. As soon as this finishes, he's not going to take the risk of adding more units. I mean, adding production facilities and trying to take this at the same time as this is going down. And then having to rely on the units being a little bit late, as Eshwar has already got a good number of Sparrow. Like, if he parks them up here and this scout over here, it makes it really, really hard for Verhoover to actually not do a farm transition like he's looking to do already. Like, he's getting handsaw, but he's already got, what's the first tier farm tech called? He's already got plow already, sorry. Yeah, so it's not often that you see plow being researched before both handsaw and pickaxe like Verhoover's doing now, but as you can see, this isn't going to last much longer. Eshwar, in the meanwhile, like I said, because he's taken the more aggressive step in the game, and because, especially with that low ground town centre towards his opponent, really good securing of a lot of resources here, he feels confident to continue expanding outward in pretty much all directions across the map. So he's already up to 111 here with his production. Verhoover, in the meanwhile, he's going for a academy first, and then a stables. So it's interesting. May just be to force out a really, really quick Sari champ, or his armory upgrades, or Toxa Hypaspis champion as he needs, because he's already getting an age 3 now. He hasn't really been dealt any real pressure yet by Eshwar, who's just now really starting to get rolling with his 111 push, because he's gone for his own town centre. Before it, there's not really been any boom in production, and he's sort of stuck with only those initial Sparrow for the time being, and then units only just now coming out. He can mount a push right now, but then he's got to cover all that distance, and by then the stables is going to be finished, the age 3 is going to be finished. So perhaps Eshwar was best off parking his units up here, actually, because he would have caught this too, like I said. Verhoover, actually, even though he went for plow so quickly and delayed the other upgrades, he's only just throwing down the farms now, which is interesting. And yeah, Eshwar could have really blocked that and punished Verhoover for not opening with a barracks or a range or a stables before that academy, because right now he's only just going to be able to start producing units, and he's sort of been delaying it until he can get prodromos, I think. He is housed too, so he's working towards town centre. Oh, there we go. Prodromos coming out, so Eshwar, funnily enough, is, as long as he has Spearmen in the mix, is actually going to be pretty well off here. Like, the bowmen don't get counted by the prodromos like Saris do, so Verhoover's going to have to add them as well. And then, I mean, the Asabara, of course, they're under a bit of threat from the Prodromos, but when you've got Spearmen and you've got ranged units as well in your composition already, your opponent's only got the anti-cav, you can really mount a lot of pressure. But Eshwal needs to be fast because Vahuva is throwing up his third town center. He's going for like a little triangle of doom on Greek here, funnily enough. You most likely see this level of turtling probably on Egyptians, more so than anything. Just because of their access to elephants in Age 3, Camel Champ, Axeman Champ, just a lot of really big power spikes for Egypt going to Age 3, while they've got a really, really rough time in Age 2 where you've almost got to have an advantage to be on an even ground in Egypt's Age 2. Well, yeah, they're Age 3, especially at the start of it. If you can tech there fast, you can take advantage of quite a big power spike. Ashlar Masonry actually being researched by Vahuva, so he wants to make sure he loses no buildings. Interesting to see him get it this early, but at the same time, if it comes to like a base race situation, because he's only pushing out with what looks to be a small force of Prodromos just to raid, and he hasn't got enough left at home to really defend, if he gets in a base race situation, that can come in really handy because it adds 25% health to all buildings, houses, storehouses, town centers, you know, all of this stuff. Everything here benefits from that. So in a base race situation, Greek is one of the best civs because of that, and the fact that if Vahuva goes for an Age 4 pretty quickly, he can get Prodromos champion, take advantage of the fact that this really fast cavalry also gets a building damage modifier. Right now I think he's going to get some kills here, and Eshwal has largely just parked his units in the middle of the map there. So all this is going to get caught. There's a bit of a hefty catch there for Vahuva. So 43 to 53 villages. Eshwal doing a reasonable job at his villager production, but not as good as Vahuva. And now this is going to punish him a little bit. He can't really respond just with his cavalry units. He hasn't got any mounted archers out just yet. So he's taken his own Age 3 in the meanwhile, but it has been a little bit slower. He's only just getting the mounted archers now. And they're going to be what he needs to really clean up the Prodromos. And it's good, but Vahuva can just add in the Saris and get champion himself, and then they're sort of on even footing in that regard. So Eshwal needs to take advantage of the fact that he's got all these infantry and ranged units to apply pressure that Vahuva doesn't have just yet, because he's played around such a macro and cavalry oriented style to begin with. So Vahuva securing where Eshwal would like to mark it for now, and he's going to double back occasionally here to keep on raiding on this shelf while he's warming up his own side. So Eshwal, I think, is probably going to be a bit of the more inexperienced player in the matchup, and Vahuva in the meanwhile has pretty much perfected how to play Arabia. Other than this little choke here, this little stretch here, he's pretty much safe and sound on this shelf. And Eshwal, again, if he moves in now, as long as he gets a lot of anti-cav behind this, like spears and mounted archers, and maybe, you know, just some Spara and Asabara just to apply pressure to the villages of Vahuva, he can really deal a lot of damage, but he needs to work fast because Vahuva scaling up everything really quickly. 59 villages to 51. There's only the 2 TCs here for Eshwal, I think. And because he does everything on the low ground, he can't really afford to lose any of this. So it really hurts him. He's not really prepped to scale across his own shelf here. There's no walls here to protect him. Vahuva's got a really nice number of Prodromos. Scouting Asabara, well positioned there, but ultimately it does get caught, and Eshwal decides, I'm going to use this opportunity to move out, but Vahuva, in the meanwhile, bringing in the Prodromos, and they've only got spears here to worry about. So perhaps Eshwal was best off leaving mounted archers at home, bringing the spears with the death ball here, and he really needs to, like I said, look at applying that pressure before Vahuva gets too hunkered down here, and a double wall follows up. This segment gets walled, you know, and Vahuva looks at securing the low ground eventually as well, because there's a huge number of cavalry. Sari's in the mix as well to make it hard for just mounted archer composition to respond to this, and Eshwal, because he's sort of parked his army out here on the map, I think he's going to get a bit caught out. So I think he's being a bit indecisive here, and now he's going to look at pushing, but Hoover's already dealt a lot of damage. He's going to snipe this armory. And there's really only been the H2 ranged upgrade research on it so far. So a lot of way to go for the tech of Eshwar. Well, the Hoover, H2 melee damage, melee armor, and yeah, range damage. So he's got 2 armory upgrade advantage over his opponent. Like I said, Eshwar just now starting to push, and he's picked a good time in a sense because these are only tier 1 walls. You know, tier 2's being researched now. Not really a lot here to defend just yet. But Hoover's still stuck with an only cavalry based composition, so he's going to have to try and dive the bowman, dive the Asabara, and then get out and fall back down to the TCs until he brings everything back. But he looks to be doing that just fine, and it's really punishing Eshwar for the fact that he's taken so long to move out, I think. And he's had his own Asabara just sort of dancing around uncommitted rather than just diving onto Saris here. None of his mounted archers here to defend, so a lot of units there being caught by the Hoover as they're looking to move out, and a lot of these, the mounted archers. So Eshwar, I think his inexperience in comparison to Hoover really sort of being taken advantage of in a sense, because Hoover's just getting in and getting out, dealing the damage and backing off, while Eshwar was sort of just idling a lot of his army here in the mid-map for a lot of that. And I think he probably should have taken advantage of the fact that he did have that production advantage over the Hoover for a long time. You know, again, only 4 stables here for the Hoover. While Eshwar, he went for a really quick 1-1-1, added a stables, added another stables in range. Really had an opportunity there, I thought, with spears, Asabara, and mounted archers to really punish for Hoover. But now it looks as though he's playing from far behind because Hoover has those armory upgrades. Thank you for the follow. Was it? Anyway, yeah, thank you for the follow. Now the Hoover again. He's at a good pop count, 25 over Eshwar. Adding in his markets and some more back at home. So he's going to be pretty much maxed out behind this. This is really where he wants to be, and this is not where Eshwar wants to be. In a sense, all this stuff on the low ground, really easy for it to be surrounded. His high ground, not walled off, so... Oh, and his market attempt is just going to get destroyed by this cavalry force, which Hoover is hiding here. So I think he's going to try and stream it past all the spearmen. That's going to be a bit of an ouchie for him. But then again, it's only 12 spears against so much cavalry that have that upgrade advantage. They're going to be able to just run straight past or just take the fight. Plenty of Saris there to get in attacks over the top with their range. So the spearman guard, just not enough, considering that's quite a huge amount of population there for Hoover. Like, that's about 25, about 50 popper units versus 12 popper spearmen. Even though you've got the counter, it's just not enough to finish them all off. As you can see, a lot of these cavalry are damaged really low from that, but at the same time, without some mounted archers or some more spears backing that up, just not to be on the defense there for Eshwar. And right now, he's sort of stuck having to bring a half-sized army back to fight against Hoover. He's getting all the upgrades he needs right now. He's getting Asa Champion, he's getting Shield Rim. He just needs to add in Scale Mail, I think, as well, and then start on his H3 upgrades. But this is really rough for him because Hoover's sniping his armories just as that upgrade would have been finishing off. So it's really rough for him, but this is a good catch in a sense for Eshwar. Mounted archers in a nice choke there, so Hoover's going to have to back off and try and find a way out of the base, which Eshwar has got a nice little defensive hold here. But like I said, again, Hoover can just keep taking advantage of that. Eshwar hasn't finished up that market yet, and it's not in the best spot. And right now, this low ground base is being punished. Not really walled in from any side, and all the villages are being picked off. So 65 to 90 villages right now. Hoover's pretty much finished his economy, looking at just massing up and taking trades. Eshwar, in the meanwhile, still has to keep maxing out his villager count up towards a nice sweet spot between 75 and 90 vills. Maybe even deleting some later on as he feels. But he still needs to actually get to that point. He's adding more mounted archers. But this TC is in dire straits. Verhoover in the position where he's finishing up his upgrades, so he can look at saving up a bit and getting to age 4 now, because he's got plenty of wood in the bank, a little bit of gold in the bank, just needs a bit more food. And he seems to be taking more and more cost-effective trades, like Eshwar down to 100 village, 100 pop, Verhoover up to 175. And this, yeah, the slow round base is all but done for. So Eshwar only on 2 town centers. Once Verhoover takes this down, Verhoover, like I said, has started walling up all segments of his base with 2 layers of walls. Well, Eshwar trying to mount the last little trade that he can for now before he's got to scuttle back to his base, and he does tap out because ultimately he is too far behind, stuck in this little corridor. Doesn't really have a great market line opportunity, I don't think, either. Like, he probably could have thrown his markets here or over here and walled up, but yeah, just not to be. Unlucky, big man. Alright guys, now for game 2. Eshwar swapping to his Egyptians, Verhoover sticking with his Greeks, so should be an interesting matchup. Egypt versus Greeks. Can Eshwar drag this out to the 3rd game and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat against Verhoover? Or will Verhoover seal the deal here with a 2-0? We're about to see, folks. We have the X, the one and only mountain crossing, awaiting us, and I will take it away in just a moment. So spawning as the green Egyptian player today, we have Eshwar, and spawning as the purple Greek player today, we have Verhoover. Just gonna fix that. Alright, so both players secure on a hunt, and there's these lovely lakes here at the back of each base. Looks as though both players are gonna have an attempt, have a chance to proxy each other here, I'd say. So ultimately you can fit through that gap down in there and fit a dock here as well. I think you need to chop 2 trees, maybe. I don't play with rotated cameras, so I can't really see over that. Actually, it might only be the one just there. And meanwhile, there is this gap here. So both players have the opportunity to proxy dock one another. And Verhoover taking his dock, Eshwar taking his dock as well, a little bit later, but it's not going to be any real difference. I think it's just basically a villager later. No building difference, effectively. Oh no. It is. So Verhoover, actually... he did gather the wood. So Verhoover skipping his storehouse, just using the dock as one. Real smart play there, so that's why that's faster. Skipping the storehouse over Ash War. In the meanwhile, going for a nice safe build that I also like to do. Double storehouse into dock. Either build really versatile because they allow you to then, you know, decide to play off 1, 2 or 3 fishing ships going into age 2 back at home. You can look at taking this water, you can look at taking your opponents with a proxy dock and taking a fight there. You can look at just skipping all that rubbish and just taking more of your land tech and just taking fights earlier on with that way. So Hoover aggressively scouting now. Looks as though he may catch. Oh, he may miss this. Eshwar sending a villager there to try and get on this middle pond. So there is actually, I think, 5 schools of fish here on this generally, as opposed to 3 behind each player's base. So rather than 3,000 food, you got 5,000 to fight for there. I'm pretty sure. Might be 5, might be more. I'm pretty sure it's 5. Anyway, it looks as though both players are actually going to take the water, so we're going to see a water battle happening potentially. Neither player is aware of the other's dock right now. So, very interesting stuff about to unfold. And Vahuva does have the harder time at defending his own lake in the event that the players end up in a mid-struggle and a proxy dock battle. And you can potentially even see them fight over all 3 waters, I think. If Vahuva wants to funnel the village around here. You might not see it as well, as both players might just opt for more conventional play of again. Just getting an age 2 eco underway. Taking the fight on the water here. And trying to actually push with camels in age 2. Or push with a infantry and archer comp here from the Greek player in age 2. Or go straight to age 3. I think either situation is completely viable. Isn't that real pretty? Man, I like the map doodads in RTS games. They look so pretty. Sorry, it's just that this is more of a macro game. It's a big map, and unless someone, does proxy dock or like a proxy rush strategy into a player going with the dock, it's not often that you really see short games on Mountain Crossing. In fact, that's something I haven't really seen a lot of lately, is like, you know, double or single proxy racks up here into pressure, you know, into trying to secure all the waters behind it. So Vahuva hitting age 2, Eshwar hitting age 2 right now as well. So Vahuva going for handsaw and immediately queuing up the trireme, so he already knows about all this. And Eshwar's going to like to do the same himself, but I think he's just short the population. Getting handsaw, getting house, so he's really mirroring Vahuva's build, just slightly slower. Continuing to gather the fish, while Vahuva actually harassing with his fishing boat, so Eshwar's getting a little bit more food out of this than Vahuva. But at the same time, the trireme's going to pop out quicker. So Vahuva unfortunately going to lose that fishing ship. He's going to try and micro it as best he can, just to hold up the trireme. Vahuva actually attacking with both the fishing boat and the trireme still. He's going to send that back to work, but keep it nearby, just in case he needs to repair. He's already double docked. So Eshwar in the meanwhile, just working towards H2 Town Centre. Vahuva's is going to be a little bit slower, I think. Oh no, he's just got the resources, he just needs to spend them. But Vahuva already committing to double dock, so he really wants this water. Eshwar actually deciding, bugger it, I'm going to sack that. Not even going to produce a trireme. Doesn't really have the gold to, because he's already spent that on his second priestess, and he's adding his stables now instead. So he's really giving up the water there already. Vahuva able to go with a really, you know, max fishing boat sort of approach here. Getting net lures here as well. 3 boats at home. Eshwar up to 4 at home. But this is eventually going to run out, and he's not even got net lures on the way, so it'd be a big tech for him because it actually adds to conservation for either of the civs here. Well, in PvP it adds it for all civs, I believe. It's PvE, where your fishing ship tech tree line might differ from civ to civ, whereas in PvP it's all standardized. With the fishing ship techs, I think at least for the first 2 ages, and then after that it might be different. I mean, first 2 upgrades, age 3, 2 and 3, then after that it's different. Whereas in PvE it's different. Some civs get the conservation, some don't. So it's always worth sneaking in the upgrade as quick as you can. Whoever already has it. Eshwar doesn't have it just yet, so it's going to be a bit crippling for him. His food, his water economy is going to end very, very quickly. Especially considering he's on 4 ships, not 3 on that one small pond. He's adding triple stables. Behoova has added a range and a racks for now, so he's looking to mount a more standard age 2 defensive army first before I think he opts to tech up pretty quickly still. He already has the academy. He's going to add the armory in later as well. So he's going to finish off the dock. And he's sitting pretty right now, but he just needs to be careful. While Eshwar, the onus is sort of on him to try and muster up as many of these camels as possible as quick as he can. He sniped the scout, so that's good. He's going to force Behoova to have to get cavalry to do the same thing. And he's just applying some pressure, but he can't stick around to fight the spearmen, so it's good that he's backing out now. Just needs to sort of find an opening, get onto some of these wood gatherers. I think that's really a good opportunity for him to do so. It's a nice spot for Behoova to park them though, because now really only down here's under a huge amount of threat, and it's still within range of that second town centre almost. So EKA going to double back with his camels. Meanwhile, he's adding his age 3 temple is set, and another stables. And Eshwar, a little bit of gold, but not quite enough for his camel champ. But I think he's going to look at getting that before he adds too many more camels, just because it's going to mean he can really cut through the range like a hot knife through butter, forcing a garrison there on Behoova. And oh, that's not the best fight for him to take just yet. So he's going to try and harass some more of the villagers. But ultimately, I think these camels are going to go down. There's a lot of them parked around the map here. And I mean, it was good that he did the harass initially, but he probably should have just backed out once he hit there and maybe wrapped all the way around with another. You know, combine his other ones, try and hit over here then, and really split Behoova in half. Force him to have to split up his own army to respond to you. But this is a nice addition for him. He's getting the chariot archers for Behoova in the meanwhile. Got his stables. Getting his Ashland masonry. But I don't think it'll be that critical for him. Same time, adding the 3rd town centre right in the middle here of his base. Really defensive structures once again. He can probably just mark it here and wall this off. I think later on is probably going to be the strategy. And then maybe even wall this segment. And then his markets are really well protected. Nice little mustering up of units, because he's already adding Sari Prodromos now as well. So he can deal with chariots and camels quite well. Eshwar, Camel Rider champion kicking in for him. So he's got his age 2 melee damage, and he's adding age 2 range damage. No armor though, and it is a double tech for Egypt, so keep that in mind, guys. As you can see, that's the age 2 tech there, what they normally cost, and that's the Egyptian armor, so it actually doubles up in comparison to the Greek tech, which Behoova doesn't have an armory for me to show you with. Yeah, Behoova, 4 ships. He can delete that at any time he wishes, but he creeps it just over here. He can probably pick off villages on that furthermost berry patch, which could be really critical for Eshwar, because then it's really going to force him to have to take early farms, or look at booming on his markets and trading the gold back, because these berry bushes won't last forever. But he has a good count of cavalry and just mounted range here. So the chariot archers and the camels forcing all the Greek cavalry back. And so the Saris They actually are a cavalry unit. They're not a mounted ranged unit as such, like say the chariots, because these guys, yeah, actually a ranged flag unit. They're going to be countered by things that counter that, and things that counter cavalry aren't going to really bother them. Meanwhile, these guys, they're a cavalry flag as the Greek Saracen, even though they're effectively in the same role in a sense, like a backline mounted unit. But that's the only similarity beyond that, because these guys also really high flat damage. The chariot archers, you can see they've already got 40 damage. The Saris, they've only got 10, but they deal a 3.5 times damage modifier to range flagged units. So Eshwar biting the bullet now. He's going to move all these guys in. Does he have enough? And oh, this isn't so good for him because he's sort of dropped a couple of units there on the run in. But he has pulled the chariots all the way forward. I'm not sure if this is the best strat for him because now they're really getting surrounded. He probably would have just been best off doing a bit of a run by, getting the chariots to fire on the cavalry of Vahuva and just trying to back out and bait him into fighting with split army or having to micro the fight the whole time. And with that really nice clumping there of the units there for the Greek player in a sense, the death ball sort of favours him just because he's got more units out in the field. And these are, yeah, much more high pop, but not necessarily more cost efficient units. So Eshwar finding himself in a bit of a deficit here. He does still have a great number of stables. Vahuva in the meanwhile has added his armories in, hasn't actually started taking any armory upgrades, so this time Eshwar has the armory lead. But in saying that, he's got so little army left and so little resources in the bank in comparison to his opponent Vahuva, really able to macro up quite heavily here. Now maxing out on his houses. Double walls here on both sides of his base. Triple wall on the north side actually, because it wants to protect a triple market line. So he's already up to 75 villages. Eshwar's already up to 74 as well. So Vahuva going to desperately force out those houses just to sort of boom ahead a little bit more. Give himself the opportunity to just steamroll into Eshwar. In the meanwhile, Eshwar, nice defensive play here in a sense. His wood and food gatherers here in his base, all really safe. And he just, the only thing he's really lacking right now is barracks to get some axeman champ or to get some slingers out. Or even, well, spear champ don't really scale that well. They're an easy throwaway unit that you can build a lot of. Vahuva going to be impenetrable with that triple wall. He's even walling up the front of his base now. He doesn't know about that just yet, but he's about to find out, so taking a run back and kill those 3 villagers there. Eshwar, 27 food gatherers right now, so it's only taking down to 24, not too crucial, but he is going to have to respond to this eventually. He hasn't got this passage walled off. He's going to leave his army parked here in this little vector, because actually he's going to move him forward, try and chase, but I was going to say you could park him there, and really he could get hit from here, or even from here, and he's really in the capacity to sort of chase and deal with it, while prepping himself to raid elsewhere himself, because Vahuva's eventually going to look at expanding out in the map, but saying that, Vahuva just has a bit of an advantage over him. Ooh! Catching Vahuva's raid there was great there for Eshwar. So Vahuva, a bit of a misplay in a sense, because he's just, I think, macroing up around the map and feels comfortable in the position that he's in, so Eshwar pretty much even in pop at the moment. But this fight, I think Eshwar's going to have to be careful here because he can't really reinforce as well as Vahuva here. He's out of gold. Vahuva's got plenty of resources in the bank and he's on his doorstep, so eventually Eshwar, the front line for him goes down and he does back out. Does have a nice spread with his base here. 2 markets of his own. He is up to 83 villages to Vahuva's 96, so things are getting to the stage where Eshwar has a great number of villages of his own. Verhoover just is really starting to cut into his army pop, but in saying that, he is still getting a lot of text right now, murder holes, all of his age 3 upgrades for his armory, even getting improved fletching so he can take the fourth age archery range upgrade that gives the damage and health bonus as soon as he gets to age 4, because he's probably feeling pretty comfortable right now. It's a good fight for him. Eshwar actually, yeah, 82 villages to 93 at the moment. Eshwar walling off the front side of his base. Already has this side walled as well. No upgrade though, so that's a bit of a risk for him. But he's going to get a good catch here of Verhoover's cavalry. If he can, well, if he can sort of back it into a corner. At the same time, Verhoover probably going to try and sandwich Eshwar's army here, because he does have the resources to keep backing a fight. But now Eshwar does as well. He's got plenty of gold in the bank too. So Verhoover having to play this a little bit carefully. But in the meanwhile, because he has brought Eshwar's army down, Eshwar's going to have to crawl forward. Eshwar's doing a good job at continuing to wall up the map though. So because of the map size, I think Mountain Crossing really does favour whoever does hunker down defensively a little bit better than their opponent. But this is a good catch here for Eshwar, I think, but Verhoover just in the nick of time, the cavalry following up, so the chariot's not able to get off too many shots, so spending most of that time fleeing here, and now most of the front lines have gone down for Eshwar. So Verhoover, whoa, he's really managed to clean up his opponent right now. Full age 3 upgrades too. Whereas Eshwar, I'm not sure if he has. So no, Eshwar is actually missing his armor upgrades, both of them effectively, as well as age 3 melee upgrade for damage. So he's really going to get his damage upgrade for his age 3 for his chariots at this point. And as you saw in that fight, he spent most of the time backing away from Verhoover's cavalry, who are a little bit faster. And it really did cost him there. Meanwhile, Verhoover going to try and pinch this gold mine off his opponent, so Eshwar going to have to really rely on caravans. And the problem is, because they're only able to gather gold, he can't really be flexible with them like you can villages. But Verhoover's not going to be able to get this wall down. It is going to force a lot of camels to funnel really weirdly and not get a lot of effective damage out though. And Verhoover does have the opportunity to send this in here and try and deal a lot of damage here on this exposed part of Eshwar's base. In fact, he's actually going to sort of, yeah, hit him, but from a different angle. Go for the middle town centre, try and kill all the workers gathering from the farms. Maybe try and get a couple of houses as well, but it looks as though Eshwar has enough to defend here at this point, I think. But Verhoover is, yeah, he does have some army elsewhere on the map. He's going to find it a bit hard to try and work his way into Eshwar's base though, considering how many walls are around. But Eshwar really starting to fall behind here. Verhoover has a huge amount in the bank. Eshwar has taken his age 4 though over his opponent. So as long as he can maintain a gold eco, keep these caravans alive, he can really do a lot of work. Oh, I missed this, but Verhoover did sneak some of his Prodromos down to harass the caravan line. Getting a lot of value out of that. So Eshwar, 64 villages for him, 91 for Verhoover. He's getting his age 4 now as well. He can sort of afford to kill his villagers behind this too. Whereas Eshwar having to keep producing them because he hasn't really got a bank of any sort. Verhoover's just trying to mass everything together while Eshwar's trying to run him down, get what kills he can, because everything really counts at this point. He's down but not out. He does have that age up advantage over Verhoover for a little bit longer. But eventually Verhoover will start getting age 4 upgrades. I don't think Eshwar's really been able to commit to any. He hasn't got Chariot Archer Champ, he hasn't got any age 4 armory upgrades as of yet, and they are quite expensive for him to get to. And like I said, Verhoover just has a bit more of a bank over him. Bit of a Custer's last stand here from Eshwar, but there's just too many units. Ooh. Eschwal's found some more camels from the depths of his base, and he does repel Verhoover. I was wrong. I thought I was about to say, yeah, it was a bit of a Custer's last stand, but ooh, Verhoover really boxing in his opponent now. He's going to get a watch post up here and slowly opt to do the same strategy. Wall him in, tower it up, force him to have to get siege there. And Verhoover really has quite good map control over Eschwal at the moment, who's really forced into having to attack all these walls, attack into towers, attack into multiple layers of walls. The final upgrade for towers finishing up there for Verhoover, so they're going to have 40 DPS. Going to basically be a stationary chariot archer for the Greek player. Eschwal still sticking with a stables only composition. He's up to 9 now. He is up to 77 workers, so he is doing well on that front. But Verhoover still up to 94, so there is still a bit of a gap there. In saying that, if Eschwal can manage to sneak in maxing out here, he can actually take a really good fight over Verhoover and then look at punishing him around the map, because he still has the opportunity to pressure this up here at the top side. Has the opportunity to really maybe try and secure a lot of these resources down here and interrupt this, because Verhoover's adding more and more stables in. And yeah, with that little bit of a bank edge over Eschwal, he can remax a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. But in saying that, he is down in pop right now, so he needs to be careful of that, because Eschwal is pretty much maxed out. And if Eschwal does take a good fight against him, Verhoover's suddenly going to have to blow that bank that I've been talking about. So Verhoover is going to try and hit the walls here. Does have the beauty of having these 3 guard towers, so that's basically another 120 DPS backing up this cavalry here. And Eschwal's going to have to send quite a lot of units to deal with this. Verhoover, though, is only just massing up everything now. He's going for a big push in the mid-map while this is all going on, I think, is the idea. So this is really going to distract Eschwal a bit. You know, tie up a lot of army down here while here he's actually going for mass Sari to just try and delete a lot of villages, I think. So he's going to get a lot of gold gatherers here. Eschwal not entirely starved for gold, but at the same time this is going to hurt him a bit. But this is a good catch here for Eschwal, because most of these cavalry aren't going to get a lot of value, and so a lot of them are going to get damaged here. So he's going to have to pull back here for Verhoover. At the same time, Eschwal really needs to regather quite quickly here, I think, to be able to deal with this. Because once again, Verhoover's knocking on the door. And he's not happy. He's actually deciding he wants to try and take both the wall and all the houses here. Deal as much damage as possible. Restrict Eschwal to a smaller army if he can. Eschwal trying to get Chariot Archer Champion and Iron Smelting in here, just to try and catch up a bit on the upgrades. But he's taking a bit of damage right now, and his army is a bit smaller than Verhoover's, who's adding in some H4 upgrades and Bodkin ammos, arrows and shield boss, so he wants to really be a good threat against these Chariot Archers who haven't yet hit Champion. So Verhoover pretty much maxed out still behind this, just pumping everything out as he can. Eschwal maintaining a defense as much as he can, but he's really starting to struggle now, and I think those armory upgrades and just the fact that he doesn't have that much in the bank and as much in production, well, I mean as many production facilities to build from, he's really starting to slip behind now. He's running out of gold. Verhoover has plenty in the bank to keep on steamrolling here, and Eschwal isn't mounting pressure anywhere else on the map. He's probably going to lose this town centre for free at this point. Oh, he's mustered up a reasonable force here, but it's not quite enough. He's only at 145 pop to to Verhoover's 180, all the way up to 200 once all these Prodromos get out. And I think we may see a GG soon, guys, because Eschwal isn't going to be able to hold on for too much longer here. As try as he might, he's microing the chariots with all his heart, but Verhoover just had so much in the bank, just has so many more units out in the field, breaking down the walls. He's going to end the farm eco. But Eschwal, plenty of food in the bank. He can actually sell a bit of it off, get some gold, get some more camel chariot, maybe even get some axeman champ out if he does actually have a barracks hidden somewhere. But it may be too little too late for him, because he's under 100 pop now. He's sold off some of the food and the wood, but 90 pop to Verhoover's 196, 92 vils to 51 right now. And Verhoover walled in on every side of his base, completely protected. Eshwar trying him out, one last ditch effort. He's getting lots of high value kills here while Verhoover's trying to take down the buildings, but as Verhoover gets the buildings, it becomes harder and harder for Eshwar to keep on responding here, to keep mounting the defense, and GG, Eshwar taps out. Really well played series, guys. And yeah, I thank you all for watching, but I'm gonna have to go. I'll see you guys later, eh?